Asked Pat Coleman to talk about how, we know him as Dr. Coleman, but he was also somebody who was nationally known because he did something that very few people had done in the 1950s. He had both a medical degree and a law degree. So Pat, tell us about your father.
Today, and I think the thing that's really amazed me is the connection between all of these people in Bayview, Hunters Point, Eloise Westbrook and Sam Jordan and my father and Espanola, and that was a time when we really had leadership and a sense of connectivity, and I think that if we can regain that, we can see Bayview Hunters Point turn around and become the place that it once was. My father came to San Francisco in the late 40s because he heard that there was a need for an African American physician. So he started across country from Philadelphia and originally decided that perhaps he would stop in Georgia and see what things looked like there. Well, he went to a gas station and told the fellow that he needed X amount of dollars worth of gas, and was told, "You referred to me as sir." My father got a punch in the face. He jumped back in his car and he said, "I'm on my way to California." So actually I could have turned out to be a Georgia peach instead of a San Franciscan native. I'm glad it turned out as it did because my father ended up practicing in Bayview Hunters Point for 54 years. He touched over 25,000 lives. Really gave himself as a person of service to Bayview Hunters Point. He loved Bayview Hunters Point. And as John pointed out, my father in the 50s had a full-time medical practice, went to law school at night to Golden Gate University, and passed the bar on the first attempt. So at that point, he was like one of maybe 10 people in the whole country that had dual degrees in medicine and law. And so consequently, my dad could have gone anywhere to practice medicine, but he loved Bayview Hunters Point. And he got his law degree because so many of his patients saw him as an educated African-American man and came to him with legal questions. And so he got his law degree not to really practice law formally, but to be, as I said, a person of service and to help the community.
Okay. Talk about his role in public health and health prevention.
Well, my dad was actually a real visionary, and I think he was one of the first people to start what they call this model of a medical home. He built the clinic that's located on 3rd and Ingerson over a half a century ago, and the idea was to bring medicine and medical services to the community. His vision was to have a group of physicians, multi-specialty, everything from dentistry to urology to OBGYN. And his feeling was that if people could come to a clinic and have their needs met under one roof, that they would be more compliant. So what started out as his vision has really turned out to prove the importance of a medical home. To this day, we have patients in their 90s that are still coming to the clinic that were originally my dad's patients. And that's because they had a place where they could go, that they trusted, that was, as they put it today, culturally competent. They were talking with people that looked like them, that knew their experiences. And that wasn't to say that, my father had any miracle cure for diabetes or hypertension. But what it did mean was that people had their health issues managed. They had a place where they could go and make sure that they stayed on top of these chronic diseases. And that's why I've heard comments from doctors outside of this community that say, "Gosh, your dad sure has a lot of patients in their 80s and 90s that have lived, long lives."
Talk talk about, he was also chairman of a bank called Transbay Savings and Loans. Talk about his role in actually helping people have homes.
Yeah, well, I don't know that much about that aspect of my dad's life. I was pretty young when a lot of that took place. But what I did know was that my father was a very generous man, and he believed in helping people financially. A week doesn't go by where somebody comes up to me and says, your dad treated me when I didn't have any money and made sure that I got the proper health care. So, with that thought in mind, I would say that my father realized the importance that we live in a monetary world, and that I think his real pull and push was to make sure that the African American community had all the advantages of the outside communities. So bringing banking to the African American community was an important aspect in raising us up.
And just to